The Dopey Challenge is only 3 weeks away. We are on our taper down, which means we are feeling good. Hopefully some of the aches and pains are calming down from that really long race week we had last week. And we are cruising down because Dopey is 3 weeks away, which means today we are going to talk about motivation and mindset. You may have realized last week that you were a little bit challenged as you were recreating those race miles because it's hard to stay motivated. And if you live somewhere like I do, it's cold outside right now, and I live in Washington, so it's rainy as I'm doing these miles, and it is just really challenging to stay motivated. And it's a 4-day challenge. There's 4 days of running in a row. There's 4 days of getting up early. There's 4 days of getting to the race location. There's 4 days. It's going to be a challenging time. So how are we going to stay positive amidst all this? And how are we going to have a best race possible for you? The first thing I would mention is to determine what is the best race possible for you. So everybody's definition of a perfect race is different. Now, you may have decided that you're going to run one of the races as a real race, that you're running it for time, and then you've decided the other ones you don't care as much about. You may have decided on the marathon that you want to get all the pictures you can, ride all the rides you can, and eat all the food you can on the race course because that's your definition of a perfect race. And that's absolutely fine. It's really important though, friends, is that you know what makes up your perfect race now so that you can be prepared for it when the big day comes. And to make sure that that is a reasonable goal, because remember, those balloon ladies are coming back there and they're coming for all of us potentially. So if you have struggled to keep up with the 16-minute per mile pace during your training, maybe you don't want to be stopping for pictures or anything like that. So there's this race group called the Back of the Pack Racers, and they start right in front of the balloon ladies. And their goal is to have as much fun as possible. And it sounds like a little bit of chaos ensues, but not chaos that injures anybody else. It sounds like they have a ton of fun. Now, I heard about them on Facebook and I told my husband, I was like, I think this would be super fun. Maybe we could do it for one of the races, not necessarily all 4 days. But his concern was, well, but what if we need to stop? What if I need to go to the bathroom? What if I need to stop for some reason and we end up in the back of the pack and we can't get far enough ahead and the balloon ladies pass us? Because an important thing to remember, friends, is if you don't cross the finish line for every single race, you don't get your Dopey Challenge medal. If you get swept, you will get the medal for that race, but if you get swept for one of the races, you will not get the Dopey Challenge medal. And we're here for the bling. So based on that, we will not be joining you back at the pack runners, but I'm hoping that we get to see you guys and potentially some of your shenanigans while we're out there, because it sounds like you guys have a lot of fun. And you know, the truth of the matter is some of you will probably catch up to us. So maybe we'll end up seeing you on the course. Now, once you've decided if you're going to actually race one of the races, or if there's one that you're particularly concerned about getting a really good time on that you want, it's important to remember that the other ones you want to make sure that you're pacing yourself. Now, for my husband and I, we usually run half marathons. That's our normal distance. So we are planning on racing the half marathon. Well, technically, as of right now, I'm planning on racing the half marathon and he's not. But I can tell you when we get out there, he is going to end up racing the half marathon because that's just the way he is. It's just what's going to happen. I'm telling you, it's true. Now, that's fine, because for our marathon, we're planning on stopping and taking pictures and riding the rides and doing all of the other things. And we know that we can finish that marathon distance in a reasonable pace well in front of the balloon ladies and still have some time for a little bit of fun stuff along the way, even if we race the half marathon. But you have to do an honest assessment of what it is you want. Now, to be fair, I will say with the 5K and the 10K, we're not exactly sure how we're going to run those races. And really, that factor has to do with the new course that they have for this year, as well as the crowds. And we don't know what corral we're going to be in. So we would love to run the 5K and 10K at like a moderate pace, not necessarily a race pace, but you know, a decent pace. But that may be difficult because the beginning of the race has a lot of choke points and there's going to be a lot of people out there. So we've decided for the 5K and 10K, we will run at a normal pace for us for as much of it as we can. If we get to a point where there's a choke point, we're just gonna walk and kind of go with the flow because we would rather just have more of a relaxing race experience before we get to the half marathon. We'll use that same theory when we get to the marathon. Obviously not as big of a deal with the marathon because there's a lot of wide open spaces. So I don't anticipate as many choke points on the marathon because you'll have a chance to kind of spread out. But you know, I'm not gonna be trying to race up Main Street. I'm gonna be trying to take it all in as we go along and look at that beautiful castle all lit up and all that good stuff. And personally for me, I think when you can get into the mindset that I'm really here to enjoy this time, I think it's going to be helpful when those crowds meet you at those really choke points. In general, my husband and I are the mindset that we run the entire race. Again, we usually do half marathons and we usually run the entire time. So we really had to consider the fact that this is Disney. There's going to be a lot of people out there. And with the new course design, there's going to be a pretty big choke point as we go around Epcot. Or at least that's what we're anticipating. Now, I may be totally wrong. We may be able to get spread out before we get into Epcot, and so this may not be true. We may end up getting to run the whole thing. But the thing is, our mindset is if there's a choke point, we're just gonna walk. And then that way we're not getting frustrated, we're not trying to run around people and maybe running on the grass and maybe twisting an ankle and not being able to finish the race. Now, I'm not saying that's the strategy for everyone. I'm saying that's a strategy we have decided to adopt. But I definitely encourage you to think about what your strategy is and what the most important aspects of it are for you. If you really need to get a picture in Epcot in front of the ball, then you're going to be standing in line for one of the PhotoPass photographers, which is fine because that's what's important to you. Because if I get in Corral A, fingers crossed, then there won't be too long of a line for those PhotoPass photographers, so I'll be there too. The next thing I want to make sure that you're thinking about from a mindset point of view is what does your recovery look like? Now, everybody has different ideas of what recovery should look like. Some people say go to the parks because a walking recovery is the best thing for you. Some people say spend the day by the pool because resting and just some gentle movement is the best recovery for you. I've seen some people who are planning on getting massages because they believe that's the best recovery for them. I will say every body is different. So what have you been doing during your training that has helped you to recover really well? I will say for me, we are planning on going to the parks every day except for maybe after the half marathon. We might stay just by the pool and in the hot tub for that particular day because that is the day that we're planning on racing. However, you may also find us in Hollywood Studios because we just got bored of hanging out by the pool. So I am a big fan of that active recovery idea, but everybody is different and you know your body better than anybody else. What I would say is something to consider is if you're planning on going to the parks after any of the races, I'd highly encourage you to wear something other than tennis shoes because you're going to be doing a lot of miles on those tennis shoes throughout the 4 days. Getting your feet in something different like some UFOs or some Birkenstocks or whatever works well for your foot, I'd highly recommend because it's important to kind of have that change, especially if you're going to be walking a lot because you get the racing and then you've got the walking around the parks. I definitely encourage you to find another pair of shoes. And if you have not tried UFOs yet, I am hoping that they'll be at the expo, but I would definitely recommend ordering one before you go. These things are amazing. And I admit, I thought the hype was all kind of crazy. And I was like, whatever, recovery shoes, that's stupid. You can just wear regular shoes. You don't need shoes specifically for recovery. All of those things that I thought were wrong. I admit it. I was wrong. UFOs have significantly helped, I believe, in my recovery for this Dopey training because I get a chance to have that cushion, which decreases the impact as I'm walking around after my long run days. And it also changes my foot dynamics that's just a different way than being in my tennis shoes. So if we do go to Hollywood Studios after the half marathon, I guarantee you will see me in my UFOs. And I will definitely say, after doing the marathon 10 years ago, we did go to the parks afterwards, and it was really helpful to get some walking in and get that lactic acid moving around. I would definitely say one of the things that I was missing last time was the salt. So I'm using Element this time in order to make sure I have enough salt on all of the race days, as well as to prehydrate before racing. And we did make the mistake last year of flying out early Monday morning. So we did the marathon on Sunday, we went to the parks afterwards, and then we went to the airport bright and early the next morning. I don't know why we did that or why we thought that that would be a good idea. I'm sure we just needed to get home for work and stuff like that. And that's kind of what we were thinking of. But this year we're flying out later on Monday. So we're actually going to have a park day on Monday, a chance to go walk around some more, move that lactic acid around. Now we do have to fly home on Monday because I have to be at work on Tuesday, but it is going to be nice to have a little bit more walking before we have to sit on the plane. In an ideal world, if you could schedule your trip out in the perfect, most magical way, I wouldn't fly out until at least Tuesday. Gives you a chance to really enjoy a park day, get your body moving, and even get another night of sleep before you have to fly home. And last thing for your mental preparation and mindset is, what are you going to be listening to on course? If you listen to something on course, do you like podcasts? Do you like audiobooks? Do you like listening to music? Do you have your playlist ready? Do you have your audiobooks ready? Whatever it is that you're planning on listening, do you have everything downloaded and ready to go so you are ready for race day? Because we all know how stressful Dopey is going to be. I mean, it's 4 mornings of getting up early with increasingly long distances. You want to do everything you can to have a successful journey, and you want to make sure that everything that can be planned for in advance is planned for in advance. So I want you to think about your mindset beforehand. What are you going to do if you start to feel like I can't do it? What are you going to do if you're standing at the start line and you start to think that I can't do this? What are the things you're going to tell yourself, or what are you going to listen to? Do you have a friend who's going with you? Give them some encouraging things to say to you to get you over that start line so you can be on your way. I cannot wait to see you at the Dopey Challenge in just a couple of short weeks. It is going to be an epic adventure, and I hope that we all have an excellent time as well as an excellent race, whatever excellent means to you. If you see me out on the course, I hope that you'll give me a wave and a "Hi, Dr. Amy," because I look forward to meeting you out there.